Hello everyone, I'm Guido Grimbaum and I'm going to start Module 24 of the Microcredentials course. Every educational innovation starts the same way, with a brilliant idea, a motivated group, and a lot of energy. But the real challenge isn't in starting, it's in sustaining. Today we're going to talk precisely about that, how to move from a one-off microcredential initiative to a solid, planned, and sustainable institutional strategy over 2 years. Because universities that plan ahead go beyond pilot programs, while those that don't remain stuck in attempts. When we talk about institutional strategy, we're talking about turning innovation into policy. A university doesn't change just because someone launches a project, it changes when that project becomes part of its system. And that requires three things: vision, governance, and continuity. This module will help you build those three components so that microcredentials aren't just an experiment but an established capability within your institution. Let's start with something very simple but fundamental. Understanding the three stages of maturity for a university adopting microcredentials. The first is the pilot phase. It lasts between 0 and 6 months. It's used to test, adjust, and learn. This is where the first bumps, the first mistakes, and above all, the first visible results appear. The second phase is controlled expansion. Between 6 and 18 months, the number of courses multiplies, more instructors join, and best practices are documented. And the third, the most important, is institutionalization. This happens between 18 and 24 months when the university already has a formal policy, an allocated budget, and a unit that manages the system. Moving from one phase to another is not automatic. It is a process that requires planning and method. That's why we are going to build a roadmap for those 2 years. A clear guide that lets you know what to do, when to do it, and with whom to do it. The first step of any institutional strategy is to have a shared vision. It may seem obvious, but it isn't. Many universities implement microcredentials without clearly defining the why. And when the purpose isn't clear, each department pulls in a different direction. So the first thing is to answer, why do we want to implement microcredentials? Is it to improve students' employability? Is it to innovate in teaching? Is it to strengthen our academic reputation? The answer to that question defines everything else. The second step is to build clear governance. Who decides that the credentials are issued? Who validates the content? Who signs the certificates? The best international practice is to create an institutional committee with representatives from three areas: academic, technological, and communications. This committee ensures coherence, quality, and strategic alignment. It is the heart of the system. Third step, define unified standards. All credentials must have the same structure, the same metadata logic, and a consistent institutional image. A badge is an extension of the university brand. Each one communicates who we are. That's why it's recommended to create an institutional microcredential manual with templates, criteria, and visual guidelines. The fourth step is to allocate a budget. No strategy can scale without resources. Funding can come from different sources: institutional budget, agreements, international funds, or joint programs. The important thing is not the amount, but that there is an allocated budget line, because that gives the project legitimacy. And the fifth step, define metrics and monitoring. You can't manage what you don't measure. At a minimum, once per semester, you need to evaluate how many credentials were issued, how many were shared, and what impact they had on employability or institutional visibility. The most commonly used KPIs are the number of badges issued, number of views on social networks, number of participating programs, and teacher and student satisfaction. With these pillars, we move into the three phases. Phase 1, the strategic pilot. Choose an academic unit or a representative program. Don't start with the biggest, start with the most emblematic. Form a small team with a coordinator, an instructional designer, and a lead teacher. Create between 3 and 5 micro-credentials that reflect the institutional spirit, and above all, communicate all of this internally. The pilot is not just for testing, it's meant to inspire the organization. Phase 2. Controlled expansion. When the pilot shows results, it's time to scale up. Train faculty from other departments, document what you've learned, and create an institutional manual with steps and criteria. Start defining when a micro-credential can be turned into academic credit and seek partnerships with other universities or companies. The goal of this phase is for at least 30% of the faculties to participate within 2 years. Phase 3. Institutionalization. When the model works, it's time to formalize it. Approve an institutional microcredential policy in the Academic Council. Incorporate microcredentials into the strategic plan and accreditation reports and create a permanent unit to manage standards, data, and partnerships. At that point, microcredentials no longer depend on individuals but on processes. That's when innovation becomes a system. Now let's talk about the critical success factors. First, leadership. Without a committed rector or vice rector, there is no traction. Second, the interdisciplinary team, teachers, technicians, and communicators all working together. Third, ongoing training, constantly training the teaching staff. And fourth, the culture of recognition, reinforcing the idea that partial achievements also matter. Next comes institutional communication. You have to tell the story of the change, show it, celebrate it, build a narrative. We are a university that recognizes learning in all its forms. Each batch. Shared is a story, and stories build reputation. Publish case studies, videos, testimonials, showcase teachers and students who are proud of their credentials. That multiplies the impact. Strategic partnerships are also essential, with other universities for mutual recognition, with companies to validate job skills, and with platforms to ensure interoperability and global visibility. Each partnership amplifies the value of the system. A 2-year strategy is not a technical plan, it is a leadership decision. It requires long-term vision, execution capability, and consistency between words and actions. The universities that are planning their micro-credentials today are the ones that will be ready tomorrow for a job market that no longer asks where you studied, but what you know how to do. Micro-credentials do not replace degrees. They complement them, make them visible, alive, and connected to the real world. Knowledge that is not recognized is lost, and universities that do not recognize it become disconnected. Building a 2-year strategy is building the future of education, and that future starts today. Well, this module is over. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something, and I look forward to seeing you in the next module.